Oh shit. Hi, video. Who are we talking about this week? The light guy or the ice guy. The ice guy. Okay. Gotta get in character. Hey everybody, Tekking101 here. Welcome back to another One Piece discussion, the Admirals series. And this week we are discussing a pretty chill dude, both figuratively and extremely literally. This is Admiral Aokiji, also known as Kuzan, and he is probably my favorite admiral. Actually, scratch that, he is my favorite admiral. I did say last time that Akainu was sort of underrated. I felt like not a lot of people were giving him as much credit as he deserves, but Aokiji is my personal favorite, and I think he's a lot of people's favorite. I think he's a fan favorite in the series. A lot of people dig on some Kuzan. You know what? I don't usually do this. I usually go about going through history of that character first before we get to the devil fruits. I usually get to the devil fruits midway through the video, but I just want to mention his devil fruit right off the bat because it's a devil fruit that can literally counter the biggest weakness of devil fruit users, which makes it one of the most OP shit in all of OP. And that is the Hihei no Mi, or the Chill fruit. His ability is to freeze things. He can do this by literally turning his body into basically an ice sculpture, but also he can freeze anything around him, whether it be a living being or even dry land, or, more notably, water. The ocean. So he can never really be defeated by a devil fruit weakness, the standard devil fruit weakness, unless you somehow manage to knock him unconscious and then chucked him in the water. That's the only way you'd be able to do it, because even if you just manage to push him overboard into the ocean, he's like, oh no, I'm gonna die, and he could just freeze a ridiculous amount of water in just less than a second. He did this, in Long Ring Longland. He froze miles of ocean, in literally just that. So it's cool. And you know what? To just cement this in even further, you know what his primary mode of transportation is when going from island to island? Is it a battleship? I don't know. He's an admiral. No, it's a fucking bicycle. Yeah, he gets on a bicycle and then uses his devil fruit power to make a thin strip of ice and then just rides on that. If he was seriously concerned about, oh no, I might fall in the water and die, then that would not be his primary mode of transportation, so he can just freeze shit like that. Alright, so pretty intense ability there. I always also, you have to take shit with a grain of salt in all of manga and the One Piece universe, but I always find it weird that it's ice is frozen water, right? His ability does not turn him into water and then freeze the water into ice. His ability literally just goes from flesh and blood to ice sculpture, which I find that kind of hard to grasp, but it's One Piece. Okay, fine, whatever. Ice is, I guess, its own element. It's cool. It's fine. Anyway, so Aokiji, when he was first mentioned in the story, he was actually the first admiral to be introduced. He showed up at the end of Long Ring Longland. Fucking tongue twisters, Oda. I'm gonna say Kubo for the end of time, forgive me. Oda. He shows up there, and this is something that always bugged me. He shows up, and, he's pretty lazy. He's just sitting there on the ground, just snoozing. And the Straw Hats approach him, and after Robin notices who he is, that he's one of the high admirals, one of the strongest members of the Marines, period. All he says was, oh man, I was just sent to see where Nico Robin was, and as we assumed, she was part of your crew, so now I'm just here to kind of put it down that, your bounties have gone up and shit. That is fucking weird. That is not why he went there. Think about that. Does that make any sense to you? You have the Marines, I guess the person that ordered him around must have been Sengoku, because he's the only one that outranks him, or the Gorosei or somebody. Aokiji, go find the Straw Hats and just confirm whether or not Nico Robin is on their crew. You know the Straw Hat Pirates, the guy who's the crew whose captain literally just took out a fucking warlord, and is a major threat to the world government and the Marines, and becoming more of a threat every day, and is kind of having this really fast rise to notoriety. Check and make sure that the demon child, Nico Robin, another character that would have the ability to end the world with her knowledge of poneglyphs, just go and make sure that they're together so we can add up the bounties, we can get everything straight, because we like to have good bookkeeping in the Marines. We're gonna send an admiral to go do that shit. That doesn't make any fucking sense. He got sent there to kill them. There's no other way you can look at that. If they were that concerned about just making sure who's on whose crew, they would have just sent a spy to observe them from like a distance or something. He's like, okay, sir, Nico Robin's on the crew. I'll add up the bounty. You don't send a fucking you don't send one of the strongest characters, period, in the series to go do that shit, okay? He got sent to kill them, and he just didn't want to do it because, very much unlike Akainu, because every one of the high-ranking Marines have their own, sense of justice. Akainus is absolute justice. I gotta do what I gotta do for the mission. If my mission involves me having to kill a bunch of civilians to see it through, well, I guess we're seeing it through, motherfucker. That's what I'm doing. Aokiji's is lazy justice in the Japanese. In the manga, it was lazy justice. I love how it was in the English, though. He called it, like, total slovenly justice. That was pretty good. Also, by the way, just a minor note, I love the voice actors for both. Obviously, the Japanese is great. Jason Douglas in the Funimation dub does a great job with his voice. I think it fits him perfectly. I think maybe that's one of the reasons why people like him so much, just because just the way he talks is just so interesting. Like, he's like, yeah, man, I'm just the ice dude. I'm one of the strongest characters in the entire series, and I could kill you if I really wanted to, but I'm just gonna take a nap because fuck it. That's how he does things. He's a lazy guy. Now, that doesn't mean that he won't do his job. He became an admiral for a reason. A lot of people in the Marines have a lot of trust in him, and when the pressure's on, he'll wake the fuck up and do what he has to do. Whitebeard summons a giant-ass tsunami to sink all of Marineford. He's the first one. He's like, well, I guess I gotta do this. And he just gets up and he just, freezes the entire ocean, So, he's not lazy as in, like, I never do my job. I think what he does when he says he's just lazy is like a cover for when he finds it immoral to do something that he was ordered, and that's just like his excuse. I mean, he is lazy. He sleeps a lot in that sense. But he's pretty strong, and we've seen time and time again throughout the series that he will show up. And he will do stuff. So he's not lazy in that respect. I think it's just he's more moral than other of the high-ranking Marines. Probably the most moral out of all the admirals. Kizaru and Akinu and Sengoku. Fujitora and him might get along. We don't know. But Fujitora is also a pretty moral guy. But Fujitora has his own issues that we're going to get to. But yeah, Aokiji's like, I don't want to do this. I feel like, the Marines ordered me to do this thing, and I don't want to do it because I feel like it's immoral. So I'm just not going to do it. And because of his standing in the Marines, he can kind of get away with it, like the incident on Ohara. We had the past with Nico Robin and how the Buster Call was summoned. Aokiji was actually the one that apparently sent Cypherpole to Ohara to exterminate the archaeologists on that island and everything. He shows up and he does not capture Robin. He actually lets her go. He ends up, he kills Jaguar D. Sol. And I say kill in quotations because while Oda's track record with backstories on the Straw Hats always involves death, and then more death, and then for dessert, more fucking death, I'm looking at how he killed Sol, and I'm just sitting there like, it doesn't seem like it was a confirmed kill, because what he does is he freezes Sol solid with his ice, and that's it. Because look, that's happened before. I mean, look what happened with Luffy. He froze Luffy solid, he froze Robin solid, and they were able to come back from that. They didn't die. If he froze Sol and then he, shattered into a million pieces, maybe that would be something, but I'm just saying, Sol is probably dead, because given it's a backstory, and, Oda kills everybody in backstories, but I'm just saying it wasn't as overt as other deaths, But yeah, Sol is probably dead. But, once again, Sol was one of Aokiji's friends, and he did that. So, yeah, it's just he probably kind of gauges it to his sense, what can I get away with here? I can't really get away. I can't get away with not going to Marineford. I can't get away with not fighting Whitebeard. And I can't have the Marines I can't have Whitebeard show up and just destroy the entire freaking epicenter for justice in this world, or the Marine headquarters. I just can't have him do that. So, he's still a Marine. He still believes that, pirates, as in the whole general thing, piracy is a bad thing, but he judges it on a case-by-case basis. He doesn't do it like Akinu, where it's like, if you're a pirate, you're an evil motherfucker. No, he goes by a case-by-case basis. And we've seen that with the Straw Hats. He's had plenty of discussions with the Straw Hats before, and, they're pretty chill with him, and they don't, they're not going to just go straight up try to attack him. Well, okay, that one time they did that, but, aside from that one point, when they met in Film Z, and I know Film Z is not canon, but, they met in Film Z, and they had a conversation, they were perfectly fine, and this is one of the highest ranking members in the Marines. In fact, the only reason that Luffy attacked him during Long Land, that wasn't like, I'm just going to beat the shit out of you for the sake of your being an admiral, It was because, he's like, we're going to try to kill you. And this is right after he just froze an entire, a giant sea king in, 3 miles of ocean. And Aokiji's like, I think I gotta kill you guys. Or maybe it would be better if you just all disappeared right now. And Luffy, was like, I'm not gonna let you do that. And Aokiji basically agreed, all right, if you fight me, I'll let your crew get away. And so that's the reason Luffy fought Aokiji there, even though he was probably aware that he wasn't gonna win. That this guy's abilities is just on a whole other level. But yeah, so that's the reason the Straw Hats encountered him there. But, other than that, I don't see, if the Straw Hats ever encounter Aokiji, in the manga later down the line, I don't think they're going to be enemies. It's interesting because right now Aokiji is apparently allied with the Blackbeard pirates in some way. That's interesting. Get to that in a second, though. So let's talk about his defection. Let's talk about that. So they run into a Long Land, and then he has a short cameo at the end of Eni's lobby where he's just like, you guys passed the test. He was talking to Robin, and then he leaves. We don't see him again majorly until, at Marineford, where he contributes in the fight. Has a lot of cool fights there, freezes the entire, ocean and the tidal wave and the tsunami that, Whitebeard summoned, so that was pretty cool. Has an encounter with Whitebeard where he almost dies. That was interesting. Had an encounter with Jozu. He froze Diamond Jozu. Jozu lost an arm because of Aokiji. Afterwards, though, Sengoku steps down from being Fleet Admiral, and, you have to pick a new Fleet Admiral. So Aokiji is recommended by Sengoku. And, Sengoku even says this to Kong, like the commander-in-chief of the world government, right below the Gorosei. He's like, I would recommend that Aokiji become the new Fleet Admiral. Akainu also wanted to be Fleet Admiral, so they had themselves a good old-fashioned fucking brawl to end all brawls. They duked it out on Punk Hazard. At the time, it was just this empty wasteland of an island. So they picked Punk Hazard, they went there, they fought for several days. Their battles eventually warped the entire island's climate itself. Half of Punk Hazard is now permanently covered in molten magma and volcanoes, and the other half is now frozen waste, a frozen Arctic tundra. Essentially, that I would feel that is the awakening of their devil fruits, as I said with Akainu. That's like they awaken their devil fruits and permanently change the very climate of an island. You might think that ice would not stand up against magma all that much. You think, magma would be the clear winner, but it all comes down to ability. It doesn't come down to just, my devil fruit's stronger than yours, so therefore or my devil fruit's the natural enemy of yours, therefore I automatically win. It's skill with that devil fruit power. So they fought for a long time, and it ended up with Aokiji getting some serious battle damage. He had a huge scar, some burns on his right arm and right shoulder. He lost his left leg, which he now has to use. Not a big deal because he could just use his powers to create a prosthetic, so that's not a big issue. But he resulted in a lot of damage there, and he ended up losing. Akainu did not kill him because he does have a sense of honor, and he realized, okay, Aokiji, you did a lot of stuff for the Marines, you did a lot of service, so he's clearly not a lazy guy if, Akainu felt like, you've contributed enough to the Marines that I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to let you go. So, Akainu left, became the new Fleet Admiral. Aokiji defected the Marines and just went about his own little adventures. It's funny because in Film Z, when Brooke asks him, oh, you're not an admiral anymore, so what are you? And Aokiji's just like, what am I? I'm a hero for just... No, that sounds stupid. I don't know, what do you think I am? So, a vagrant? I don't know, but I will say one thing. He has an adorable camel. The camel, it's a penguin, but the name of the penguin is Camel, so he has an adorable camel penguin. Yeah. So he just kind of travels around the ocean now on a giant penguin, just getting into adventures. Pretty cool, actually. He shows up at Punk Hazard at the end to stop Doflamingo from killing Smoker. This was a badass scene right here. I love this. I love this scene so much. One of my favorite moments of One Piece. Like, if I was going to make, like, top 10 One Piece moments from the entire series, this would be on here easily. It's those matchups that you get that you just want to see more of. Be like, because this is one of those things where he shows up and they have a little scuffle, but eventually Doflamingo retreats, and you're sitting there just like, oh, I wanted to see more of that. It would have been so cool. You know, in more ways than one, it would have been cool. Aokiji has a relationship with Smoker. He says, you know, you're my friend. You know, Smoker was actually the one that asked Aokiji to send him to G5 in the New World. So they get along fairly well. Maybe Aokiji trained Smoker at some point in his past. I don't know. Oh, by the way, we should do a discussion video on Smokey. Yeah, that would be good. I didn't even think about him. I forget about him a lot, honestly, but yeah, we should do that. He shows up, stops Doflamingo, once again, freezes Doflamingo solid. Doflamingo just breaks out of it, though, and I guess Doflamingo realizes, I ain't got no time for this, or I'm not gonna... He either realized that I could win, but it would take a lot of time and a lot of effort, or he realized he wasn't going to win at all and just booked it the fuck out of there. I like to think it's the latter. I like to think that Aokiji could have killed Doflamingo. It would have been a little bit of a tough fight, but I think he could have killed him easily. Right now, he's allied with the Blackbeard pirates. We know this. We don't know a lot about this, but we know this is the case. During Dressrosa, when Luffy overheard Jesus Burgess talking over the Den Den Mushi, he was talking to Blackbeard. They were talking about Aokiji, and Burgess is like, we can't trust him. And Blackbeard is like, well, we really can't trust Shiru either, but, whatever. I think it's okay to hear him out, whatever. Later on, the Gorosei confirm that, yes, Aokiji is now allied with the Blackbeard pirates in some way. I don't know what that implies. Don't know what that means exactly. There's really nothing about Aokiji that makes that seem like a big, like, whoa. Like, him and Blackbeard were always enemies. Like, Blackbeard, he was a pirate on Whitebeard's ship. He killed Whitebeard, but Aokiji never really had a connection with Whitebeard or anything. There's no reason why he should care about Whitebeard being dead. Or Ace. Didn't really care anything about Ace. So Aokiji joining the Blackbeards, it's not like this big, oh shit kind of moment. He must be like an undercover agent or something. Not necessarily. I don't see anything that really ties the Blackbeard pirates to Aokiji where it would be like, Aokiji just would never join them because they did something to him a long time ago. See, I can't, Blackbeard did something to Shanks, but Shanks and Aokiji have really no connection so far as we know. So I like to see where that's going to go, and maybe get some updates on that. He did have a cover page. He had a cover page during the 500 million man arc where he's just hanging out with his penguin. That was it. So that was interesting. Aokiji, I feel like, I don't want to say like he's gonna... Fine, I'll just say this, okay? It's gonna sound weird, but I really hope this happens, probably not. I really hope he allies with the Straw Hats at one point, and they get into some big battle, and it involves Aokiji, like, allying, working with the Straw Hats. That might be kind of difficult considering that he's working with the Blackbeard pirates now, but once again, we don't know the whole story behind that. We don't know if that's going to turn out to something. But I just want to see the Straw Hats interact with him again. I want to see him interact with Robin again, because he let Robin go back in Ohara. And, we had that moment where after, at the post-Enies Lobbies arc, when they're all celebrating on Water 7, Aokiji shows up, and Aokiji's like, you guys passed the test, So I think he understands, Robin is not an evil person. Robin is not like that person that's going to destroy the world as all the Marines are afraid of. He judges people by their characters. If you're like an evil motherfucker like Doflamingo, he will attack you and try to kill you, because, you're attacking one of his friends and shit. I don't know what his thoughts really were. I mean, he said about Aki Inu, he said, absolute justice makes people do some crazy shit. You know, probably didn't phrase it that way, but that's basically how he phrased it. He did not really agree a lot with Aokiji and his way of doing things. But, you know, he's defected from the Marines now, so that's going to have some hot water with them. He's a big player in the world, a really big player. Probably on the same lines of like the people that the Gorosei really worry about. The Gorosei, every time we see the Gorosei meeting, they're always talking about the people that you have to be like the most concerned about in the world, like Dragon and Blackbeard now that he's a Yonko, and all the other Yonko, and shit like Marco and the remaining Whitebeard pirates, you know, keeping tabs on all this shit, and you know the Monkey D. Luffy and everything, as well as Aokiji in this instance. So he's a big player, and it's probably going to tie back into something. I don't know how that's going to go about. And keep in mind also that the Blackbeard pirates recently attacked Baltigo. They recently attacked the Revolutionary Army headquarters, so I wonder if Aokiji was part of that at all. If he's just trying to gain the trust of the Blackbeards, or he's trying to do something else, I don't know. But yeah, I don't think there's really much else to discuss about Aokiji right now, other than he's probably the most human out of all the Marines, as I stated. Pretty cool, very likable guy, and I hope that if there's ever, let me put it this way, if he doesn't have a confrontation like where he helps the Straw Hats out, I hope that when the world government eventually collapses, which is probably going to happen at some point in this story, near the end, the world government's going to collapse, and there's going to be this whole, I'm not saying the Marines are going to go away, but the world government's going to be completely reshaped, this whole new thing, because it's corrupted as fuck, and you gotta deal with that shit sooner or later. That's going to be a big climactic moment in the One Piece series. I hope Aokiji's part of that. Maybe he'll have a rematch with Aki Inu or something like that, or maybe he'll take on one of the high-ranking members of the government. That would be awesome, and I think he's going to be maybe involved in that in some way, in some form. But yeah, what are you guys' opinion on Aokiji? What do you think about his personality? What do you think about his devil fruit ability? What do you think about him maybe his allying with the Blackbeard pirates, his relationship with the Straw Hats, you know, where his frozen icy trail is going to lead in the One Piece universe? He's just kind of like a wandering, kind of like a Ronin, you know, the wandering samurai. I mean, he can make a sword. He makes just takes a bunch of blades of grass and he freezes them instantly and makes a fucking ice sword. So he's a wandering ice samurai with a giant ass fucking penguin, you know, and he's just having all these crazy adventures on the ocean. That's pretty damn cool. I like to think of him like that. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Next week will be Kizaru. Kizaru is the fucking scariest admiral of them all, let's be honest here. He is. More on that later. Bye.